I asked you a question, which is such an open-ended, unfair question, which is, what do you think is going to happen in the near future? But the next thought in you being silent came out of me was what one feels with the inability to express what they see in words, which is very strong in you.
Yeah, it's that too. And sometimes it's that, sometimes it's I just don't want to speak about what I see. So I guess in this case it's both.
Okay, so I won't ask that question.
But do you have any insights?
No, because I feel like the next step, whatever it is on the spiritual side, on the spiritually awakened people, is going to be a step into the unknown. And so you can't know the unknown before you step into it, right?
I agree, even if it is an unknown, but it's like a checkpoint that was there for some time, as hidden and mysterious as it is.
Yeah, but see that you just said the magic word, mysterium, mystery, right?
Is that a superhero or a villain? Mysterium sounds like a villain.
Well, it's mystery, but like some people, in looking at the realm or the reality that we're immersed in, call it a mysterium. Like there's so many unknowables, there's so many unseens, there's so many layers, especially when you look at the outer screen of reality that's bombarding us all the time. Even that has layer upon layer upon layer, right? So you might break through to some truth, right, and see the lie or see the way it's been manipulated, but I'm just learning that it has more layers than we previously thought.
Yeah, but because of that, you don't have to worry about all the layers, because in the end they're all kind of the same game. So
True. And I wouldn't say it was worrying about them, it's just perceiving them, like they're revealing themselves, right? And it's all the same, you're right. It's all, but it's just along a pathway, let's just say a soul path or a pathway through this, or out of the labyrinth, or however anybody wants to give voice to that. There's lots of dead ends, right? And so if you're not aware that you're being reintegrated into the system, you can get stuck, for a long time, maybe even.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most important aspect of being human here, like to develop in yourself?
Well, you just said it. Like the most important aspect to be human is to develop yourself. That's
Is to be what?
The most important aspect is learning. That's the most important aspect. Learning about you and learning about who you are and what the universe is about.
Well, yeah, I mean, that says a lot. And yet, a lot of people may be able to say that, though in some ways they haven't reached the point of deconstructing themselves either. For me, it's a process of deconstructing.
It is a process of deconstructing, but it's not that you can see this even while you and me or anybody can have a lot of work ahead, you can still see the peak of the mountain even if you didn't summit yet. It's there, you see it. So just because you have a long journey ahead doesn't necessarily mean you don't grasp. You, in some ways, for real don't grasp, but in other ways you do.
I like that.
And even a selfish person will probably understand the benefits of deconstructing himself or herself, but it's easier said than done, right?
Yeah. Well, I honestly don't think a lot of humans actually understand that process. And it's for a lot of reasons. And it's not even a judgment, because the more I look at things from a broader or higher or expanded perception, I just see that each individual has a very specific pathway laid out before them in this life. And letting go of the idea of yourself, that probably hasn't.
Yeah, that has to be the hardest thing.
Yeah.
The hardest thing to do.
Right. But even the idea of that,
There are a lot of.
I don't think a lot of people have really hit upon, you know? Maybe they do, maybe in their private moments, and then it scares the shit out of them. And they just go back to the persona.
Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you?
What?
What do you think of NPCs?
I've been talking about that and thinking about that for a long time, and in some way I think it's a good concept. At least it helped me understand especially the screen world. Okay, like, I don't like to use that term because I feel like it's a label and it's derogatory. Just because a person isn't really spiritually awake doesn't make them an NPC. To me, to some people,
Yeah.
so I don't like to use that term anymore. But I have seen in real life also groups of people that I can't see their soul, Christian. And they're out there in the world, and they're doing, and they're buying, and they're shopping, and they're making money, and they've got their phones in front of their eyes, but I don't see that life spark in them. So I don't know if that, transfers to other people's experience. And it's only been a moment. It's like a subtle shift has happened, and, a subtle perceptive shift, like you shift into another attention. And that's when I've seen it.
Okay, so you agree with this theory?
Well, yeah, and I mean, even if we're like, we've done a lot of like looking into things with different technologies, our past history, hybrid world, I mean, we've been messed with for centuries, right? So it would be possible to think that there are human-looking type beings.
Yeah, but then the question is, isn't that like a waste? Because there have to be a lot of souls that wait their turn to come to this school that is Earth, and then why waste some of the players with NPCs when you can have all real players?
Because they're being used to create a screen world. Because they're actually programmed, right?
Oh, they have a role to play.
Of course. And
who
speculate.
Who programs them?
Well, that's something a lot of people are discussing, right? Obviously, now we're moving into the world of AI and all of that, with robotics and everything like that. But I mean, they could have been programmed eons ago. Who knows? I don't know. But and it's true. I mean, they've done psychological testing where like something like 25% of people have no ability to have self-reflection. So
What
if
do you
you
mean by self-reflection?
like looking inside yourself or asking why you did something or feeling like, you know, yeah, just that, to be able to look inside yourself and question yourself. Like we already touched on some of the more profound questions that people are examining right now. And it's really hard for me to imagine a human being that doesn't have that ability. Or they don't have the ability to use the imagination.
Yeah, I think imagination is a telltale sign of a presence of the spirit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just listened to a video. I didn't get through all of it because the guy that was talking, I just, I like him, but it's not my favorite person to listen to, but he was talking about Anastasia and the Ringing Cedars, the book, you know that book? The Ringing
I don't
Cedars?
think I read it,
No, it's
but I've
from,
heard about.
I downloaded it. It's from Russia. Okay, and it's a group of people. And Anastasia is the woman that speaks. Some guy finds this group of people. You know, there's actually communities based on this now up in Russia. But it's like they were still completely in touch with nature. And they lived around cedar trees, and these cedar trees were ancient, and they would communicate with them, right? In song. But one of the thing that stood out the most to me when I was listening to this fellow, and he was reading from one of the books, was that she said that many long time ago, we had the gift of imagination. In other words, we could imagine the world into being, right? And we were in a harmonic, and so our imagination was fully present, right? It could create things. But she said something went wrong a long time ago. And it doesn't say what, but that they started to use the imagination for malevolent purposes. And so everything shut down. And so she says, and I like it, it's a myth or whatever it is, that we are all, those of us that have that gift, we're all being woken up in sort of a sequential way to go back to that place where the imagination. Because if you think of it, image nation, like creating a nation, nativity nation, like this is something that we long ago lost. To not just imagine, but to actually create through the imagination.
Well, I don't think we lost it completely.
No.
But we are scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think we have either, but I feel like as more humans or whatever beings reach a state of beingness, or they reach the state of the imaginary realms, which are as real as our physical world, but we just don't see them. But as that happens, like that's the changing dynamic within the organic realm. Like it's happening. It's happening. I know it's happening, but we still have a long road to walk. So that's why.
Are you going back to Rudolf Steiner on this with
no
the fall into the matter and then the rise again from the matter into.
Well, Rudolf Steiner and 1,000 other sages have been speaking of the same thing, and it's obviously that we're in a fallen state. How we each got here is for any individual to figure out. But and we're.
What do you mean? It's like you're making it sound like something bad.
No, I don't think it's bad. I didn't want to say that. I mean, we could have fallen into matter for the highest reasons possible.
I don't think that would have. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
It's a good question.
it's possible. I mean, there's so much, people have such different opinions and views on things, but like, if we look at the great the yugas, right, or these great cycles that all the ancient people have spoken about, not just the Vedic, it's like cycle within cycles within cycles within cycles. So who's in control of that?
Well, we are.
We are within our individual, say, energy sphere or energy body. It is up to each individual, right?
Yeah, but also on a collective.
Yeah. But it's like, if you just imagine for a minute that evil, whatever that quote unquote evil, that if that presence of the adversary or the presence of however one determines that didn't come into this existence, we really don't have anything to go on. Where would we be? What would, did it have to be this way?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, we spoke about this many times, and evil is necessary and very, a driving force.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, not always fun, but and in the end, maybe that's letting go and this acknowledgement that good and evil by themselves are just concepts. Why don't we say like evil? Don't say evil. Say that part of the force that is unable to let go, and don't say good. Say the ones that can let go.
Mm-hmm. And yet, when we look out at the current scene in the outer world, it doesn't look all that nice. You can really see evil having its way, whatever. I mean, I don't need to call it evil, like whatever. And we've moved from other times in the past where, like the Native Americans, it was the trickster or the adversary. Matter of fact, it was in the Bible, it's the adversary. It's the adversarial force, right? Which is always necessary in your creation. But that it's turned to blatant degeneration.
But even this is not the first time humanity goes through this complete insanity and degeneration. We've picked sometimes in the past, many times, and then we reshuffled all the cards and started something.
So maybe there's just this spark in me that says, how many cycles like this are there? I myself, I mean, you've asked me this question, and of course, if I were, as a spirit being, was directed to come back and take body form, I would. But, I guess it is learning, Cristian. It's like, if you learn the ultimate lessons, to surrender to the divine, if you learn how to build your character in truthfulness and somewhat of a noble character, perhaps you don't have to come back and repeat the lessons again.
Yeah, but then you may come to help others, and maybe there are other lessons.
Right. But, there's probably a lot more ways to come into this realm than just, being plopped into a physical body and trauma. There's probably other ways to come here and help. You don't have to go through the whole trauma cycle again, right?
Yeah. Maybe. But are you feeling like trauma right now?
Me?
Are you traumatized?
No. No.
So then why do you complain?
I'm not complaining. Just talking.
So if you come back and you don't feel any trauma, but you're in a body, then that's gonna be okay, right?
Yeah.
The question was, why do you assume that if you are this complete soul that's old and experienced, why do you assume that when coming back you're going to be subjected to traumas over and over again?
I don't assume it. I mean, I've had lifetimes and lifetimes of trauma. I mean, I've remembered plenty of it, but I've also learned through that trauma. I've learned a lot through that trauma. So, is trauma absolutely necessary? I don't think so. And if you go back into imaginary worlds, we call them myths and fairy tales and, Eddas and all the things, all the old stories, is like there are plenty of other manifestations of intelligence, right? That didn't have to be in a human body that's being traumatized, I mean, and I'm sure they're around us all the time. There's beings of light. They're much more ethereal in nature.
Yeah, and there are beings of darkness.
Yeah. Plenty of them. But then it comes back to your individual knowing thyself and your individual resonance and what frequencies are you emitting, whether or not you're going to have contact with either or.
I'll say from my experience, you have contact anyhow, but whether they have any power over you or not, that's determined by your frequency. But contact, and I mean, because they work with other people around us, and it's not like you're.
Yeah. But whether or not they affect you, I think is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Because I do see, and it's not like I'm looking for it, and I'm not like even investigating, and I will pick up a darker energy form, right? And I'm working with somebody right now on that. Because the minute I see it, it knows I see it. I don't go into battle. That's not my purpose. But the act of seeing it alone, it either has to hide, change forms, move on, and if it's at its own place of consciousness, it'll actually want to start to change and let go. But those are all individual different things. And I see in people, they're so accustomed to working with these, darker egregores or entities that they don't realize that it's not them. So they're kind of under a spell or contract or whatever with these. And so a lot of their emotions and their thoughts are not even their own.
Yeah, I think that's a very good observation, that a lot of people that are possessed to a certain degree are completely unaware of the presence of other spirits around them or inside them. So
yeah, especially if something entered you at a very young age, and actually a lot of it does come through trauma, people that have suffered a lot, seen horrible things in their real lives. Those are the openings.
yeah, I agree. Those can be openings, but it's not like you're completely powerless.
No. But you have to, I was meditating this morning. I actually sat and meditated this morning, which I never do. I mean, literally cross-legged. Lucy got on my lap and was purring in my belly. And I was thinking about this person that, who's a very good soul, right? And it's surrender. It's like, especially for men, I will say that, in a way they're trained to, especially if they're trained to be protectors or warriors or capable, and all the things that, not your generation so much, but certainly my generation and going back, they're highly frustrated because that modality of being is going out, and so they keep reinforcing it. And this beautiful gift of surrender, like, just give it over to God, if you will, give it over to the world of spirit. It's like you're fighting with shadows and ghosts all the time. You can't win that way.
No, you can keep on. There is always a bigger force, or there is always a next fight for you.
Exactly. And it's just like, there is this real reality of something called grace. And if grace enters you, you're so blessed because you'll never forget it.
Yeah, what maybe the Christians call the Holy Spirit, or...
Yeah, no, I mean, it's like truth has a resonance, grace has a resonance, right? They're fundamental. And so they're going to be experienced in slightly different ways, right? And you can say the Holy Spirit, right? When the Holy Spirit enters into the, and I've had that happen to me, and it actually came in the traditional Christian way of a dove, so, it doesn't matter how it is. And they're all they're like notes on a scale, Christian. They're all the same, but they're notes on a scale. It's like a orchestra or a symphony starting to play.
Yeah. And now you have to be able to keep up with the song, right?
Yeah. And that really what you're saying, is that letting go. And I'm contemplating it myself all the time now, and I know other people are, is like, how many things that I believe are true, and am I able to let them go? Just that, whatever, it's like looking, and I don't have anything specific to say to that at the moment, but flow. If you're hanging on to a steadfast belief that gives you a foundation, and it's your belief, right? Well, you're not going to be really in flow.
Pretty nice words.
Pretty nice words. See, I like talking to you, especially, but I find for myself, having an outward expression is beneficial to me in a certain way. Do my words match my reality? Big question.
I think they do.
Well, if they don't, I will certainly get a knock on the head. Yeah, but that's an internal question. It's the question of union. It's a question of, integration. Is like, do my words actually, and of course I step out of it. I get frustrated like anybody else, And I'm lucky I have a few friends that I really trust that I can just rant with when I need to, you know. So no, I'm not like a guru sitting on the top of the mountain. No.
Well, that would be a sight.
I mean, if I really could be that, all that I know that is within the potential, you know, I would just like, you know, transport myself over to Romania right now and sit down and have beer with you. If you're still drinking beer.
Well, yeah, but not today. Today I'm not drinking anything, so.
Okay. Yeah.
And we might as well drink a glass of wine instead of beer, so.
Oh, okay. I prefer mezcal over everything else these days.
Or that, or a good tequila, or a good rum, or.
No,
Yeah.
I've never been a rummer. I mean, honestly, I've either been, but no, mezcal is my drink. It's my medicine. And I don't drink hardly ever, but I had wine the other night with a friend. We went out to dinner and I couldn't drink the glass. I really couldn't finish it. It just didn't, it wasn't, you know, maybe some fresh made wine from somebody in the country in Romania or wherever might be a different story, but yeah, there's something about mezcal. And I don't drink, I'd have one, but it works for me.
Yeah, what warms you up inside.
It's so funny. I'm sitting here quiet. And it's like all these news stories. They're like ping, 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 ping. Not on my computer. I mean,
Why do you
they're
allow
not even worth
notifications?
commenting on anymore. I can't. I mean, I'll comment on certain things, but it's ad nauseum. 1,000 million voices. Wah, 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 wah. All talking about the same thing. Don't you think that's part of the reason everything's holding together too? Not just the mainstream news and the governments and all that and Hollywood and all that bullshit, but like so many people are focused on it and talking about it all the time.
Yeah, I think focus is important. Like, whatever the general masses of people are focused, it's reinforced and over. But I think in the end, it's not going to matter.
Is that a good statement?
Like,
Or a doom statement?
doom. I think it's a good doom statement.
Okay. Okay, Professor. Okay.
Professor Doom.
Yeah. So it's not going to matter in what form does that mean it will take?
In the form that it didn't matter in the past, or it didn't matter in all ways, in all kind of ways. In the past, when people were focused on crazy things, right? It didn't, in the end.
It's different this time because of the internet, because of the ability to broadcast your words and your thoughts and everything to whoever, you know.
Think so?
Yeah, because I mean,
you think it's different?
In a lot of ways, you know. I mean, it was much more. I mean, if you look at the world, right? You know, you go back centuries, even though maybe the Phoenicians were sailing around and touching on everything and or whatever, it was like what was happening, let's say, in Greece and Rome and all of that, maybe wasn't really affecting the people in Polynesia or Japan.
Yeah, I was talking way before that. For example, like another era of humanity when people were connected, maybe not with the internet, but maybe like,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, more like spiritual or.
Yeah, but that takes us into like a long forgotten realm in my mind, right? One that's reappearing in our vision, but I don't think we hated each other and said bad things to each other when we were in communion.
I don't recall exactly. It's like I feel like I have a general feel of that era, and I don't have specifics. But why do you think hate was beyond us at that point? I don't think it was beyond us.
Well, yeah, I have a really specific memory about that, Christian. I mean,
Yeah,
I've written about it for sure, and I've spoken about it. I don't know to you, but I have to others. Is that my memory involves the fact that I was like wherever I was nowhere. I was nowhere, and I was just listening, and I could see that the world was created into being through song. Okay, music, song, and I could see that like in different areas of the world, like let's just take from Australia, that there was a certain, their song covered a certain territory, but then the other people from other regions with other customs or whatever knew that song, and they'd pick up that song and they would sing their song, and then that would get transferred to another group of people. But the people, whatever the nations were, they had only, they were on a certain geographical area, they were on a certain telluric current, if you will, they had a certain contact with the cosmos, but they sung. And so within that, there was no disharmony. But then something came in that started this battle of like being accusatory to the other. Like this thing came in, it was not seen. It was a discord. It was a disharmony in the harmony. And the immediate thing that I saw starting to happen was that these nations or these tribals, or however you would have thought of it at that time, started accusing their neighbor. Like, you did this. No, you did this. No, you did this. And yet not ever seeing that there was something separate from that was creating this. Does that make sense?
it does. Where do you think that the thing came from?
I don't know. It could have come from the mind. It
Okay.
could come from like a pathogenic something that entered into the realm, which is possible. If it's a body, it's a living body. If you think of the earth and us and everything in it as a living, one single living organism, you know, how it did or how it would have done it, you know, I mean.
I think that how is less important than the fact that the humanity was so innocent that and so inexperienced that it didn't perceive it like a threat or didn't perceive it at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get back to what we spoke earlier, like you would be able right now to perceive such an imposter energy. You would feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is all these thousands and thousands of years were for exactly this reason.
Mm-hmm. Very true. And see, that was what I was saying about the game that's being played in the outer matrix, is like there are layers to it. There really are. And I know I can pick up pretty quick the resonance, or where the person that might be speaking something that might sound truthful comes from. And I can see they're imposters, they're false prophets. And yet many of the people I know that maybe are just on the beginning of this part of the journey, they don't see that, And so, and because a lot of good people, quote unquote, good people, I mean, they're people with heart, they're people with compassion, they have empathy. It's very difficult for them to, like, if somebody appears to do good in the world.
I know it's hard for them to discern, to have, because they think that being good and having good thoughts, it's everything that's needed, and it's not. Discernment is important, and experience, and those take a long time to develop.
Yep. Or, another possibility that we're also trained to think everything takes a long time. And I'm working on, no, it can happen in an instant, in the blink of an eye. You see, that's the other possibility for us, that, let's say,
I think for some people that are already there, and they just need like a small step, then yes, it can happen. But if you think about the state of humanity 50,000 years ago, there is no way we could have, that this whole awareness could have happened without us going through all the shit.
Yeah, but us going through all that shit is like a lot of us going through all that shit, right? And taking down, or unwrapping or unveiling the game. And so the game gets more foolish, it gets more apparent, it becomes more obvious. And so it is consciousness. And I think a lot of people, you're probably aware to some extent that that's why you're here. And so at some point, I can almost see it, Christy. I mean, it's been with me for a couple of weeks now, where literally, somebody can see it. I mean, they'll just move into the new. They'll just move out of the matrix, right? Like we were saying earlier, stop giving all your attention to it.
Somebody might as well do it. I think it's time somebody does that.
And the only thing that stops, really, really, really stops people, in my experience, because I do sit with people, from actually doing that, is fear of the unknown. They're terrified of it.
No, I don't think it's that, because if they are really that close to it, to doing it, they kind of have to be pretty fearless by now. So I don't think it's that. I think it's just.
But that you're speaking of people that have gone through the passageways and gone through the things that you and I and others have gone through, right? But there are a lot of people that I see it, Cristian. I just see it. We used to say this even to ourselves, right? It's right in front of your face and you can't see it, right? Like, I see that how easy it would be for them to make that leap. But that's where I say that it's a fear of the unknown. It's a fear of not having money. It's a fear of, what will my neighbors think of me? It's the fear of losing somebody. It's a lot of fears.
Yeah, and the fear of what would society think of your breakthrough, and what the society is going to do with your breakthrough. So.
Yeah, because ultimately what it does come down to is like responsibility, right? So if you see something and you can't unsee it once you've seen it, then you have to take some responsibility. Otherwise, you're just being torn apart inside.
I had this game like for years in my mind. If I could make a car fly, like, when you're gridlocked and you want to be somewhere, just lift it off the ground and just fly. And by doing that, show people some of the hidden power we have, everybody has. And to this day, I'm not sure if I could do it, that I would actually do it, because I'm not sure it will be the right time for everybody to see a flying car.
Well, it's interesting with all the, UFO alien presence stuff that's being promoted now. But
Yeah, that's another thing altogether.
yeah, but one of the things that stands out from the years that we were involved with looking at these things and listening to people, but the one thing that really, really rang true to me was that there is a technology where the being is in a craft, but it's not propelled by combustion. It's electromagnetic, but it's because it's a craft that the being can sit in that becomes part of it, right? So it's controlled by consciousness, and I think that's.
I remember I wrote a story like kind of like that.
Yeah, and if there is any technology, and I think there is an access to technology like that. And I mean, that would be the last thing that they would want humans to have contact with, right? Our own little personal craft.
Well, yeah, and when you think about it, some technologies can only be available for quote-unquote good being, for a good being. I don't think...
Exactly. Go ahead.
Because evil may have this AI or whatever, and evil may be high tech, but in whole different ways. But this technology where the spirit controls the craft, or then this all has to stem from the good side of the spectrum.
Did you ever see any of those old clips, like of the guy that made a levitating platform with putting beetles, the vibration of beetles under the woodcraft? It's vibration. No, it's crazy. I mean, this was all the stuff that was coming into like human consciousness at the turn of the 18, from the 18 to the 1900s. People were totally involved in resonance and frequencies, and yeah, he had this it was a wood thing, and he had like a bar on top, and he stood on it, and he had all these beetles underneath it that were vibrating their wings. And like, it's well known that beetles and bees don't fly from aerodynamics, it's from resonance, right? It's the frequency.
I've heard that about bees, that they don't make an aerodynamical sense. I mean, they don't make sense, their body.
Yeah. Look at them, little fat chubby bodies with these little tiny wings, I don't think that's an aerodynamic design.
Yeah, but then if you think about how angels are portrayed, even they have very, very small wings compared to their weight, and I mean the wings have to be triple the size they're painted, right, to hold a grown man, right? So
plus the musculature to flap them.
Yeah.
Right.
But they just paint them like normal human beings, just with feathers on the back. I mean, come on, how is that gonna fly?
No, I know. Oh.
See, but maybe just the thought, maybe you do need wings, just for your will to be made, known to the universe. So even the tiniest wings, if you flap them, then that means you want to fly. I don't know. I'm just...
Well, ever since I've known you, you've been, like, I don't want to say obsessed, but semi-obsessed, let's say, with flying. Like, that was the biggest thing that was just bothered you, that you couldn't fly.
Well, for good reasons that we're not going to go into now, but for good reasons.
That you're not going to go into now?
No. Maybe if you turn the recording off.
Okay, we can do that in a moment. Yeah. Okay, well, I actually think we already covered what I wanted to get on the recording, so let me pause it. Hang on just a second.